Welcome to A Little Nutrition Talk Radio, the podcast for health seekers who want to cut through the noise of nutrition, diet, and health confusion and take charge of their well-being. I'm your host, Susan Watson, registered dietitian and certified eating disorder specialist. As the founder of A Little Nutrition Inc., a multidisciplinary healthcare clinic, I believe that health is multifaceted, and that's why our team takes a collaborative approach to integrating both nutrition and mental health support across all stages of life. We believe that health is so much more than the numbers on the scale. Our weight-neutral philosophy prioritizes providing inclusive care that empowers our clients to focus on what truly supports their well-being on their own terms. On this podcast, we're going to explore questions about health, nutrition, mental wellness, and offer a refreshing new perspective on taking care of yourself. It's not about striving for perfection. It's about discovering what works best for you. So you're in the right place. Grab a cup of tea, get comfy, and let's jump into today's conversation. Hello, and welcome to today's episode. We're going to be talking about sleep. So our episode is called Rest Assured, Uncovering the Hidden Obstacles to Rest. And if you've ever felt like sleep just doesn't come easy to you, no matter how tired you are, you're not alone. So joining us today is Alyssa Bietz. She's a kinesiologist and a certified adult sleep consultant and the founder of Your Sleep Story. Alyssa works with adults who've been stuck in the cycle of sleepless nights and frustration. People who've tried everything and still wake up feeling exhausted. Her approach is gentle, evidence-informed, and rooted in helping people uncover the real reasons behind their sleep struggles. We're going to be talking about why sleep feels so hard for so many adults, how to create habits and environments that support true rest, and just what to do when your brain won't shut off at night. Ultimately, we want to understand how better sleep can have that ripple effect into other parts of our life, from mood and memory to energy and well-being. Alyssa brings a warmth and expertise and a practical approach that empowers people to feel in control of their sleep again. So whether you've been navigating insomnia, perimenopause, shift work, or chronic exhaustion, this episode offers insight and hope. So let's get into it. Hi, Alyssa. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm excited to share about sleep and hopefully help give some tips and strategies for those who are not sleeping.
Excellent. Well, why don't we start off today and maybe introduce yourself a little bit about how you came to this work, your business, who you serve, and a little bit about, I guess, why this work is so passionate for you.
Yeah. So I actually worked in pediatric sleep, so helping babies and children sleep for the past 5 or 6 years. And previous to that, I did a Bachelor of Kinesiology. And so from the get-go, I actually always wanted to work with adults. It felt like a really natural fit in my life when I had young children. And so recently I've switched over to working solely with adults. So I left pediatrics, and it's such a good fit for me because I've always been passionate about sleep ever since I was quite young. And the more adults I talk with, the more I realize there's just lack of education on sleep, and more specifically, what to do dependent on the type of sleep struggle you're dealing with. So education is my top priority right now. And with my personal practice, I help adults who struggle to fall asleep and stay asleep. And I teach them a program. It's called CBTI, Cognitive Behavior Therapy for Insomnia. And with that 6-week program, I bring them from a place where they're not sleeping well, they're struggling, they're anxious about their sleep, to a place where they have all of the strategies to solve their sleep and just feeling more empowered and like they can actually make change.
Wow, I'm so excited to hear more. It might not look like it, but I'm slightly sleep deprived right now. I came back from a holiday, came back from Maui, and it's a 6-hour time change.
Yeah.
And the travel was over 24 hours back with layovers and very sleep deprived. And I'm on day 4 of trying to catch up, doing so much rest it was easier going west than it was east. But the value of sleep, I can just tell my operating capacity is lower, so I'm not taking on as much and really prioritizing recharging because I know how important it is. And I have a daughter who has ADHD, and since a very young age. I even refer to it as the dark years, where we didn't know that she was neurodivergent, and she had a lot of struggles sleeping. And now as a teenager, we're working on reversing some of that and getting some good sleep habits in play. But I'm very passionate about understanding sleep and how it relates to health and how important it is to just optimizing health. And people will come to us for nutrition concerns. And, we often maybe forget to talk about sleep in our care process, but starting to bring it back in, because it's hard to make food decisions that feel nourishing when you're underslept. A lot of those quick and easy food items come into play, which we might need at the time, but the more sleep and rested we are, the more sleep we get, more rested we are, I find that we're able to take better care of ourselves. So I'm so excited to get into our conversation today. I just wanted to kind of even tie in how dietitian and sleep can really come together. So let's start off. The first question I have for you is, what are some of the most common obstacles adults face when it comes to getting quality sleep, and how do they begin to address these challenges?
Yeah, so this is actually a loaded question. And the reason why I say that is there's two camps of people. And this is knowledge that people have, but I don't actually think they really truly understand it. So there's sleep deprived people, someone who it's an adult who maybe when they go to bed, they can fall asleep fine, but they don't give themselves the opportunity. So whether that's they're not prioritizing it due to like work or social events, or it might be reasons out of their control that they can't prioritize their sleep, like having a newborn, caring for a loved one. And then there's adults who struggle to fall asleep and stay asleep, and this is termed insomnia. And these adults are prioritizing their sleep, but when they do go to bed, they're giving themselves the time in bed. They just simply can't sleep. So they can't get that quantity of sleep. And the reason why this is so loaded is because these two different camps of people are going to have very different reasons and obstacles. And so the obstacles are different when it comes to someone who's sleep deprived. They need to focus on actually creating time and space for sleep. And obviously life and seasons are going to happen, but for someone who is maybe binging TV before bed, right? They need to turn off their screens a little bit earlier, focusing on sleep hygiene, and then shutting down work. I know that working from home myself, it is so easy to bring work into the bedtime routine all the way up into bedtime because you feel like you just need to get one last thing done. And so for adults who are sleep deprived, doing the simple sleep hygiene tips, shutting things down is going to be really helpful. Where on the flip side, the other camp of adults is adults who are struggling to fall asleep. And for me, the first thing is helping them realize that there's a solution, that they don't need to continue to struggle. And once they realize that there's a solution, they start to realize that I don't need to take sleep medications or sleep aids for the rest of my life. And they need to really focus on the root cause of sleep issues, which is thoughts and behaviors. And that's specifically for adults who struggle to fall asleep and stay asleep.
So the people who might make time to go to bed early, but their mind is racing on things that might be happening the next day, projects that they have on the go, work commitments.
Family stresses, relationships. Yeah, they go to bed. They've given themselves the time, but it's like they're tired but wired, right? Their brain is spinning. And that's insomnia. And that is going to be very different than someone who goes to bed after like getting home super late from work, falls asleep within 5 minutes. They need to focus on different things.
Just to interject some personal stuff here. So I think back in the day, I was more along the lines of not making time and just trying to squeeze as much out of the day as possible. And that eventually wasn't serving me, and started to get some good sleep habits and routines in place. And what I notice is like, I've got a good system for shutting down work, like trying to not work after a certain time, don't answer emails. all of that, and that's really helpful. But then I find certain things like my husband and I would watch a show before bed, and I finally had to tell him that we can't watch that show before bed. And he's like, why? And I'm like, it's too activating. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I go to bed and I end up thinking about it and dreaming about it and get a really crappy night's sleep because of that show. And he's like, that's so weird. Yeah. But it's like a medical show, and I feel like because I do a lot of medical stuff during the day, and then some of it is really like emotionally triggering. So I think even how you unwind can impact all of this. And so I just made that decision, and I told my husband, like, we cannot watch House before bed.
Yeah.
It's too much and it's silly, and he doesn't get it. But for me, that's a self-care move that I had to do.
Yeah, and it's a very real thing. And I actually educate on that, is that there's two things. Obviously, like, screens are not necessarily the best, but they're not the enemy. We actually don't get into that until like week 5, sleep hygiene, in the program that I teach. However, blue light can interfere with melatonin production, but oftentimes I hear that portion of it, but I don't hear the content portion, right? And so they're equally as important to address, because that content can lead your mind into overthinking.
And it's even like listening to like audiobooks or all these things that we think like, oh, to wind down. The content piece, at least for me, I found was an issue. So I just found that very interesting. Or sometimes I picked up a hobby like sewing, and if I'm, struggling to, I guess, fix something, or I've made a mistake, and then it's like, oh, I got to go to bed, then I'm pissed off going to bed about the mistake, and I'm still thinking of it. So it's almost like going for a walk or doing something that is not using my brain is probably the best way, and that could be neurodivergence. But I love knowing that, like, I didn't know that there was the two different aspects, and it totally makes sense, because I'd be like, I don't have insomnia, but I can see how content and not clearing my mind before bed could be impactful.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the next question here. How important is the connection between what we do during the day and such activities like physical activity or screen time, or maybe what happens during the day, and the quality of sleep that we get at night?
Yeah. So for this one specifically, I would like to speak to stress, because this is so, I guess, underthought about or educated about. We go through life, with the demands, the work schedules, relationships, and all of this throughout the daytime can increase cortisol, which is your stress hormone. And what's often understood, I guess, or not understood, is that high daytime cortisol levels can actually bleed into your nighttime. And these can affect your sleep. So falling asleep, staying asleep. And in the program that I teach, I actually have clients, and I teach them how to do a relaxation practice during the daytime. Because nowadays, we're not like fleeing from a bear. We're constantly in this fight or flight stage because of stresses and emails that we're reading and conversations that we're having. And so it's equally as important to be able to downregulate our nervous system through some type of relaxation in the daytime. And oftentimes I have people actually take a look at their day before we look at the nighttime, because what is happening there? What are you thinking about? And it could be something as simple as like 10 minutes of like a meditation throughout the daytime, or standing in the grocery store or the coffee shop lineup and just doing some box breathing. So little things to be able to incorporate into your day to reduce those like cortisol spikes as best as you can.
I remember when I was in a different job, a different career, it was more retail oriented, but I'd be in box stores like Home Depot, Canadian Tire, that sort of stuff. And I remember I would take that 10 minutes and go walk through the garden center just to smell the flowers, like in the middle of the winter, right? And just kind of take a bit of a break, smell the flowers, and bring those cortisol levels down to
Yeah.
recharge. And I did that without even really knowing, just knowing kind of like that's what my body needed.
Yeah.
And I think we can find these kind of moments in time during the day if we try to pay attention to what's going on in our
Mhm.
body. It's like, oh, I need a rest break. And I'd say 5 or 10 minutes can do a lot.
Yeah. And just being intentional, right?
Mm-hmm.
We go through our days so busy. Oftentimes I hear that the only time that I'm like thinking is when I'm going to bed. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
right? Like that's the time that you want to be sleeping, not processing everything that's going on throughout the day. So it's important to have, even like a scheduled worry time,
Yeah.
something, a to-do list where you like, or just like a brain dump, trying to just reduce those stress spikes. And honestly, it's going to be different for everyone and different in different seasons of life. If you have young kids, well, getting out to the park and just like taking a moment to do the five senses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're working in a hospital, like getting out on your lunch break and just spending like a few minutes just being in the sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
Different, yeah, depending, but it's all
Mm-hmm.
possible.
Yeah, it's different scenarios and finding those kind of brain breaks and stress relievers
Yeah.
is so important. Um, okay. Again, we could probably talk about that topic forever.
Yeah.
Let's move on to, I guess, sleep and nutrition and the connection. And I know you mentioned like that's my wheelhouse, but you have some insight on this. And I think that there is a lot of I guess maybe popular information on the internet and stuff that might be myths that we want to kind of steer
Mhm.
clear of. But there are probably some foundational concepts when it comes to nutrition that I'd love to hear what you have to say, and we can probably collaborate on the same information.
Mhm. Yeah. So when I get asked this question, I always like to say experiment. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
to give like a one size fits all recommendation because I truly don't believe there is one size fits all. I even think about my husband and I and how we are so different with the foods that we eat and what we can eat before bed.
Mm-hmm.
And what works for one client may not work for the other. So the key is just finding something that fits. And I'll give some general rules of thumb because there are many different camps out there. And so you've probably heard before, don't eat too close to bed. 2 to 3 hours is what you would read. I like to say experiment and then do what works best for you. Because if you go in being like 3 hours, someone said 3 hours. Well, then if
Mm-hmm.
you go to bed hungry and you're waking up in the middle of the night hungry,
Yeah.
how does that how does that help? Right.
Mm-hmm.
However, eating too close to bedtime, that means that your body is trying to digest when you're trying to fall asleep, and that's not good. So really finding like that window for you and what's going to be best for your body can be helpful. And then also thinking about like GI discomfort, right? The
Mm-hmm.
types of foods that you're eating. For some, it might just be in their culture that they eat more spicy foods, and that's okay. So saying no spicy foods might not work for you. And then lastly,
Oh,
if
I
you,
want to touch. I want to touch on the, 2 or 3 hours before
yeah,
bed thing, because that's a big question that comes up all the time, and
yeah,
I like to just separate the conversation between don't eat before bed in the diet culture light, and why we
mm,
might hear that advice versus don't eat before bed to improve your sleep.
yeah,
And I guess the science behind that would be that when we eat it's a whole organ, it's a whole system, and if we're eating, we might feel tired, but inside our gut and our body is still processing that food. And for some people, they might be really sensitive, and that might keep them awake. But for
mhm,
some other people, that might help them calm down.
mm,
It may help settle, maybe if their blood sugar was low and they need to get some nourishment, it might help release some serotonin and help them sleep. So I love your idea around experimentation. And I think that we don't necessarily know what works best for everybody. And ultimately, it's kind of listening to those hunger cues, because that's our body saying like, hey, gas tank is empty. And ignoring that will make it really hard to sleep. And then when we think about the conversation around diet culture saying, don't eat, after supper, or don't eat after or before bed, that's really a restrictive diet culture concept that, again, we kind of dismiss and be like, if you're hungry, you need to eat. And sometimes we might have missteps when it comes to eating before bed and sleeping, but it's so important to listen and honor your body, whether it's for sleep needs or for hunger and nourishment needs. I just wanted to kind of touch base on that.
I love that. I love hearing from your perspective, because I am very much like stay in my lane, and my lane is sleep. And so if I ever have questions, and I know we've done this before, where I've just reached out and asked questions, because I just believe we all have like a different hat, right? Yeah. And the other thing too is, so if someone's struggling with insomnia, so those two camps of people, we have the adults who are struggling to fall asleep and stay asleep, it's best to actually not snack or eat during the nighttime. What I find with some of the clients coming to me is that at 1 a.m., they're having a snack because they're awake anyway, even, they're not falling asleep till 3 a.m. And so it's best to eat during the daytime when you want to be awake, and then
when your body needs it.
Exactly. Yeah. Because otherwise you're sending mixed signals to your body, right? And that's just going to actually make it more challenging to solve your sleep issues.
Definitely something to experiment with on an individual basis, for sure. I've never woken up hungry in the middle of the night, except for when I was nursing. It was the weirdest thing. Yeah. And I think that's, again, listening to your body. It was a biological, cue saying, honor this and need it. And I can see how if you're trying to sleep and it's like, you almost give up. It's like, well, maybe I'll have something to eat. And then that gets your digestive system going and really bumps you out of that kind of calm, rest and digest kind of piece. So I can see that happening. And I think that, if somebody maybe didn't eat enough during the day, they might be waking up because of hunger and might need nourishment. So it's again, probably something to consider on an individual basis. And if you have eaten enough during the day and your mind is racing, like there's probably some other tips that you have for that.
Yeah. And that's why I love working one-on-one with clients, is because we get to like really hone in on what's going to work for them. Right. And I'm sure you do that with your clients too. It's like, it's not one size fits all.
Yeah, that's great. On the nutrition piece, I hear that like having a glass of milk with the magnesium is very helpful. Okay. Have you ever used that recommendation?
You know what? So I haven't. Magnesium itself can be relaxing and calming. I don't prescribe or recommend anything, but I do always say, like, if you have questions about that, go to your doctor. But I believe, like, personally, that everyone should be having magnesium. So yeah.
I find with my daughter, I'd give her a glass of hot chocolate or something before bed, and that just, when things were really hard, I found that helped the calmingness, but also probably some of the magnesium there. Lots of different, I guess, nutrition or maybe supplement that's out there. And just because we're on the topic, I guess anecdotally or personally, I've always found chamomile tea helpful. Having that. And then my personal favorite is actually valerian root. I know people talk about melatonin and all of that, but I've always found that valerian, either in the capsule or in the root in a tea, for me personally, back to experimentation, has always just helped me get into a deeper sleep and stay asleep. And I've never really had sleep issues until hitting my 40s and that kind of pre-menopause hormonal shift. And it's like, plus all the stuff that's on my mind and the responsibilities and commitments that I have, I've just found that that's been very helpful as part of the sleep routine. But other than nutrition, it's like stay nourished. Don't be undernourished.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Any other nutrition tips to help, or patterns of eating that you have heard of or talk about?
Yeah. And I think that kind of covers it from my perspective. Once again, it's going to be individual to the person, but trying to just stay like the basics, right?
Yep.
Stay on a consistent eating schedule and be fueling your body with items that are going to make it feel good. And everyone's different. But yeah.
I can imagine chaotic eating, like under eating and then eating past fullness, and just having that chaos could definitely impact sleeping as well.
Yeah, stress on your body, any type of stress on your body can absolutely impact.
Yeah. Okay, so our kind of final question here, for someone who wants to take their sleep and health more seriously, or really maybe commit to working on this but feels overwhelmed, what are a few different small but impactful changes that someone can do and start right away with?
So first off, I love this question because from my perspective, small changes are key to sustainable success. I hear so often, it's like, I'm going to try these 6 things. and then you give up after a week, right? Because it's not sustainable. So there's 2 changes or suggestions that I would make. And the first one is to have a consistent morning wake up time. This is so underutilized, and it's going to basically tell your brain when it should be waking up each day. And it's going to allow your body to feel consistent, right? Because exactly what you're feeling right now, jet lag. If we sleep in 1 to 2 hours on the weekend, and then on a Monday, we go back to our normal wake up time, your body's constantly in a flex back and forth, and the sleep pressure and all of that is way off. So the recommendation I have is to wake up at the same time each day. Ideally, even on weekends. If that feels overwhelming, do like a 30-minute flex. So you could maybe sleep in 30 minutes on the weekend. And this is for someone who is struggling with their sleep and they are wanting to make like a first small step. That would be my recommendation. And then the second is to really utilize light and darkness. So the recommendation around that would be to get sunlight into your eyes within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking up. Ideally, it would be outside in the sunshine, or even cloudy days are okay too. If you wake up before the sun, like I do, using a light therapy lamp or a sun lamp for about 10, 15 minutes can be helpful. And then on the flip side, for the darkness aspect, using a dark environment. So thinking about turning off overhead lights before, like about 2 hours before bedtime, and then slowly decreasing light as you get to bedtime, because this is going to help increase melatonin production, or actually it's going to signal the production of melatonin, because melatonin is secreted by the cue of darkness. And so these are 2 small changes that someone can make if they want to start taking those next steps towards sleep.
Okay, so I got now more questions here.
Huh.
A sleep mask.
Yeah.
So when you're cueing darkness, I cannot get my husband to turn off certain things in the room that have lights. And I've just found my own way of doing things. And I have a kind of a heavy eye mask, and I'm almost now like addicted to it. I can't sleep without it. If it's fallen off, I lost it, I wake up, I'm like, where's my eye mask? Yeah. Is the melatonin production still the same, or does it have like vitamin D, like touching the skin? Still sleep is good, or does your body know that there's a blinking light somewhere coming out?
That's a good question. So I don't have the research to answer that question in front of me. What I would say for listeners is just start with an eye mask and don't be concerned about the rest. Because I always like to say, control the controllable, right? So you've tried to make the changes. You haven't, that's fine. Or, it wasn't received well.
Yeah.
and so you're going to control the fact that you have an eye mask. I wear one too every night.
Mhm.
For me, I actually have ADHD as well. And I feel like I can feel light on my skin. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's a thing.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, I don't have the research to pull in front of me.
Mhm.
But I do my best to make it as dark as possible. But if we're
Mhm.
traveling in a hotel room or in a certain place, it is what
Mhm.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So an eye mask is a great solution.
And then I also have those, I think they're called Loom or Loop earplugs.
Yeah.
And I've tried so many different ones from like
Yeah.
swimming ones to industrial ones, but they're the best. And like we're going through, I guess, sleep apnea testing for my husband.
Oh, yeah.
And he does not understand how loud he is, even though we recorded and he listens like it's
Mhm.
terrible. But my sleep was really impacted by that. And so now having those in, great for sleep, bad if there's a house fire because I'm out. But
Yes. Yeah.
it's really changed, I guess, the quality of my sleep because
Yeah.
I would sleep very light again, probably due to my life stage,
Mhm.
due to things that are going on. But that light sleep, I'm sure we could have a whole conversation on the stages of
Mhm.
sleep. But those are two things that I think are very helpful is like dark room. Of course, that there's also temperature, right? Which I feel is fluctuating. Sometimes I'm too cold,
Cooler.
and
Yeah.
I'm too warm. But like
Yeah.
my feet will get super, super cold, but my body will be hot. So lots of things to just maybe prioritize and think about.
Mhm.
And I think the idea is, yeah, prioritizing it. If it's not working, be curious, try something new. Don't settle for crappy sleep.
Yeah, and you know what? That's something that I really like to get across to adults is, and particularly women, is I hear it a lot. I went to my doctor. Here's a sleep medication, or take Tylenol PM or melatonin, and it is
Mhm.
what it is. And it
Yeah.
is so far from the truth. It is so far. There are things that we can do. I get many of my clients off of their sleep medications and the sleep aids that they're taking, and their
Mhm.
sleep is improved at the end of it without those things. And
Yeah.
so it's important to remember those two camps of people, sleep deprived versus insomnia. They have
Mhm.
very different treatment options. And
Mhm.
for insomnia specifically, so people who are struggling to fall asleep and stay asleep, the
Mhm.
gold standard treatment is CBTI, and that's what they really
Mhm.
want to look for. Mhm.
Mhm. Well, I'm so fascinated by this topic. I think we could probably have you back on a few more times to dive into some other topics. But if
Mhm.
somebody wants to work with you
Yeah.
personally, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, so a couple different ways. They can go onto my website and book a free discovery call. It's basically a chance where I can hear what's going on with them, and then I can share a bit about the program and if it would be a good fit. And then the second option is through Instagram, and I'm at your.sleep.story, and they can always feel free to reach out to me there too.
Great. I'll put all of your contact information in the show
Yay.
notes. And I thank you so much for being on this call. You're local in Winnipeg, but do you offer services virtually?
I do. Yeah.
And are
Yeah.
you able to practice across Canada
I
and the States?
can. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Well, thank you, Alyssa, for being on the call today. And
Thanks for
if
having
listeners
me.
want to get a hold of her, we'll send out that information in the show notes below. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for joining me on A Little Nutrition Talk Radio. I hope today's conversations left you feeling informed, empowered, and ready to approach your health with confidence and self-compassion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. And if you found value in our discussion, I'd love for you to leave a review. It helps others find the show and join in on these important conversations. For more support and resources, visit A Little Nutrition Inc. online at www.alittlenutrition.com. You can also follow us on social media for more insights on intuitive eating, mental wellness, and evidence and lived experience-based healthcare. Until next time, take care, be kind to yourself, and remember, your health journey is yours to define. See you in the next episode.